It's Wednesday the 20th of May across Greater Manchester. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News and these are today's headlines. Pressure grows on Hazel Blears in the expenses row. Gordon Brown brands her actions totally unacceptable.
There will be a backlash, that's obviously. I mean, even here, I can't see... Well, I think she'll get him because this is a Labour ward.
Also coming up, the grieving pensioner who can't afford to bury his dead wife.
They told me to ring up the bereavement department and Stepping Hill, so we're dead. And they said they would help me with it, sort the finances out and everything. And when I spoke to bereavement at Stepping Hill, the woman on the switchboard who spoke to me said, well, there's not a lot we can do.
And they got booed on Britain's Got Talent, but floral high notes from Wilmslow say the show must go on.
I appreciate that, you know, he obviously didn't like it. I think he was just being perhaps very narrow that day, and maybe he'd been there a long time and maybe the audience had got to him and he was feeling a bit grumpy that day.
Good afternoon. Hazel Blears' future is looking uncertain as pressure grows on her in the row about expenses. Gordon Brown has now condemned her actions. Here's Georgia Calvin-Smith.
The Prime Minister has denounced Hazel Blears' actions after she avoided paying £13,000 in tax on the sale of a flat in London. Gordon Brown's criticism reflects the feelings of many ordinary people living in Blears' Salford constituency, and now party officials are worried that the backlash could cost her seat.
Salford is known as a strong Labour constituency. They've had it. They've literally had it. And Hazel Blears has caused it.
I thought a lot about Hazel Blears, but she's gone down in my estimation.
Enough to make you consider changing your vote?
Yes. Yes.
You wouldn't?
Definitely.
Would you change your vote?
No, I wouldn't vote for her, no.
There will be a backlash, that's obviously. I mean, even here, I can't see... Well, I think she'll get in because this is a Labour ward. Hazel Blears will get in, just because they're born Labour around here. But I mean, she'll go down with a reduced majority, though. There's no two ways about it.
Although Miss Blears had been enjoying the benefits of having designated her London property as her second home under Commons rules, she'd actually told the taxman that it was her primary residence, meaning that £13,000 of capital gains tax wasn't required. Mr. Brown has said that it was totally unacceptable behaviour. I don't support it. Miss Blears has since said that she would pay the money back, but nevertheless she's also faced censure from local councillors who have issued a statement making clear their dismay and in some cases disgust at the abuse of the system by a minority of MPs. However, despite the blow to the trust her constituents have in her, the chairman of Miss Blears' constituency Labour Party has said that she will be the Labour candidate at the next general election. Georgia Calvin-Smith, Channel M News.
Thanks, Georgia. Well, there's now to be a debate on reforming the expenses system. All the main party leaders have agreed to put a limit on what can be claimed for rent and mortgages, and also the practice of switching, which is classed as your second home, will be stopped, as would claims for things like furniture and cleaning. These changes will be temporary till a full new system is put in place. A teenager has been raped in Stockport. She was out with friends on Saturday evening and was last seen talking to 5 men at Brown's Bar in Hazel Grove at 12:15. She left with one of them. Half an hour later, she was found semi-conscious on the ground near a car park on Brook Street with some of her clothes missing. A teenage girl's also come forward to say she was raped in Bolton last October. The victim's only now told of how she was walking along a dimly lit street off Melbourne Grove in Horwich when she felt a sharp object being pushed into her neck. Her attacker pushed her to the floor and raped her before he escaped. Police have commended her bravery in telling them what happened. There's been a 10% increase in the number of people being arrested by the country's child sex abuse unit. Figures just out show more than 330 were picked up last year. One of the tactics used was a most wanted website. A pensioner from Stockport says he's leaving his wife's body in the hospital morgue because he can't afford to bury her. Harry Clark says it's come down to a choice between paying for Kathleen's funeral or paying for food, and he doesn't have the £1,600 that's needed. Here's their son, Gary.
I don't think we're getting our human rights at all. I think my mum would have had, the human rights of a funeral. That's what I thought. I mean, this municipal funeral, even that is going to be like £1,600.
And that's called a pauper's funeral?
Yeah.
Do you think that's an accurate description?
No. I think you'd be quite well off to be able to pay for a funeral like that, myself. I can't, you know, a pauper, my idea of a pauper is someone who's not got a penny, like the tramp that Charlie Chaplin used to play. He's what you call, his character was a pauper. He couldn't afford that.
It's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are your plans? I mean, what kind of an impact will it have on yours and your dad's life, finding this £1,600?
I mean, the co-op were fair enough with me in the way that they sympathised, and they said to me, if you can raise a £500 deposit at some point, we'll accept that, and you can pay the rest off in instalments of maybe £100 or £50 a month or something. Well, I mean, I would, you know, try and do that. I mean, I could, you know, I think I could sort of skimp and scrape and manage the payments, but the deposit seems impossible at this time, because I just haven't got a £500 deposit. I just haven't got it. My dad's not got it. I've not got it. We haven't got it. It should be a system where at least you can get your deposit paid, and then if you have to sort it out yourself and sort the bill out afterwards, even that'd be fairer than this. But like I said, to find a £500 deposit to me and my dad, it's a tall order, to say the least.
2 men have been charged over a hit and run in Salford. Police were called to the Carlton pub on Camp Street on Saturday evening, where they found 49-year-old Terence Southerton, who was pronounced dead at the scene. Anthony Wheeldon from Salford has been charged with causing death by dangerous driving, failing to stop and failing to report an accident. Another man, Kevin Mannion, who's from Earlham, has been charged with attempting to pervert the course of justice and driving while disqualified. At least 97 people are dead after a military transport plane carrying troops and their families crashed in Indonesia. It came down on a village before skidding into a field and bursting into flames. It was on its way from Jakarta to eastern Java. Patrick Swayze's publicist has described reports that the actor was dead as reckless. Rumours that the 56-year-old had lost his battle with cancer started after a radio station in Florida posted a message on Twitter. The Dirty Dancing star's spokesman says he's alive, well and responding well to treatment. Former Stockport County owner Brendan Elwood has broken his 5-year silence over the club's latest fortunes. He's been speaking about what the future for the club could be after it went into administration. As the deadline approaches for people interested in buying it to come forward, he has ruled himself out of getting involved. Well, we're joined now by Peter Devine from the Stockport Express. Peter, good afternoon. First of all, how significant is it that Brendan Elwood has ruled himself out of getting involved in the club?
Well, I think Brendan Elwood has basically kept stum about what the situation is as far as county is concerned, and I think the fact that he's now come out and said that he's not interested any longer suggests to me that he probably is still interested in getting involved. I kind of see it as maybe a bit of a ploy by Mr. Elwood to you know, to be behind a consortium, but he has made it clear that although he might put money in or support it, he won't be fronting it.
What other options are there for taking the club forward?
Well, I understand there's 2 other consortia interested in taking the club over, so that would make 3 people, and I think the administrators are kind of hopeful that a deal could be worked out by as soon as the weekend. I understand one of the deals is quite far forward, and the supporters trust that have a deal going as well. So at this stage it's hard to say, but there are 3 people in there, including the Lord Snape. So you know, we'll wait and see.
Remind us of the timescale on this.
Well, the timescale has been set probably by the administrator, but I would imagine the administrator's working in conjunction with the Football League. I would imagine the Football League will want this sorting out as soon as possible, bearing in mind they've got to start, you know, organising the fixtures for next season.
OK, Peter Devine from the Stockport Express, thank you very much for joining us. We'll await more developments on that. 400 of the world's top disabled athletes have arrived in Manchester to compete in the Paralympic World Cup. They'll be competing for 5 days in a range of events, including basketball, cycling and swimming.
Well, we've got the Paralympic World Cup coming up this week, and I'll be running my first races on Sunday, the 100 and the first time here, the 400 metres. And you know, it's just it's a great event. It's one of those events that when planning out a calendar, you can't really miss. It's a huge stepping stone. Manchester's a crazy city when it comes to sport, and the support has always been very good. So I'm looking forward to this weekend, as I'm sure it's not going to be an exception.
You know, this is the 5th year we've been to Manchester for this event, you know, but it's been a fantastic event every time we've been here. I think it's getting stronger and stronger every time we come. So it's really exciting to be back here and competing again.
I moved to Manchester in January to train here full time, which means I'm on track 3 times a week with the Olympic and Paralympic squad. So it's great being on track at the same time as Chris Hoyes, Victoria Pendleton and stuff, and you can rub the ideas off them and kind of watch how they train and really kind of perfect it. But then I'm also in the gym 3 times a week, and then when I'm not in the gym or on the track, I'm out on the road doing the miles. So yeah, it's quite a busy week, but keeps me entertained, and it's quite a nice job to have.
Sticking with sport, Ian Irving's here now with the rest of the headlines.
Thanks, James. The government have warned Manchester United fans travelling to Rome for the Champions League final to take care. The Reds face Barcelona in the Italian capital in a week's time, with around 30,000 supporters expected to make the trip. In April 2007, 11 people were injured when the club faced Roma in the quarter-finals. And later that year, 3 fans were stabbed as the sides met again in the group stage. And it's those type of incidents the governments are hoping to avoid by working closely with the Italian authorities. And staying with United, manager Sir Alex Ferguson says Rio Ferdinand must play at Hull on Sunday to prove his fitness ahead of the match with Barcelona. The England defender is struggling with a calf injury he picked up in the second leg of the semi-finals against Arsenal. The Reds boss says Ferdinand will be fit for the final, but is keen for him to play at the KC Stadium this weekend. On to cricket now, and Lancashire are in action today against Essex at Old Trafford in the Friends Provident Trophy. The visitors are the only side to have beaten the Red Rose so far this season and may need at least a point from the match to qualify for the quarter-finals. The home side are already through, but Peter Moores has resisted the temptation to rest key players, naming an unchanged lineup. Bolton manager Gary Megson has begun his talent search after the Trotters sealed their Premier League status with the 1-1 draw against Hull. The club have been linked with moves for Anderlecht's Roland Juhas and Deportivo striker Ricky. Megson's plans come a day after Wanderers defender Gretar Steinson said his boss needed to strengthen his side in the close season if the club wanted to push on and finish higher in the division next year. Tameside outfit Hyde United face winding up proceedings in the High Court today. The case has been placed against them by HM Revenue and Customs. Will be heard later on. The club are believed to have debts of around £200,000, but are expected to be granted an 8-week extension to the deadlines to pay back the debts. In Rugby League, Salford's Craig Stapleton is doubtful for Friday's game with Bradford. The Reds prop has missed the last 2 matches with a foot problem, and he now faces tests on the injury ahead of the showdown. And Manchester Magic captain Stephen Gill has been named the English Basketball League Guard of the season. Well, that's all the sport for now. Back to James, but we'll have more at 5 o'clock.
Ian, thank you very much for the update. Still ahead on the lunchtime news, why travelling by train is getting safer, and Rochdale fights back against the out-of-town shopping centres.
Places like the Trafford Centre, Manchester Town Centre, they're taking such a big percentage of the business away from smaller towns, so we've got to be more proactive and help the residents of the borough.
This is the Lunchtime News on Channel M. Welcome back. Don't forget all our reports are also available online at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, the parents demanding answers over a crash that killed their son on a section of road they think wasn't up to scratch. And also reaction to the new car scrappage payments to get more of us trading in our old vehicles. That's at channelm.co.uk. Back now to our top story, and Hazel Blears' future is looking increasingly uncertain as pressure grows on her in the row about expenses. Gordon Brown has branded the Salford MP's actions totally unacceptable after she originally avoided paying £13,000 in tax on the sale of her home. Now, party officials in her constituency are worried she could lose her seat. We've been getting reaction in Salford.
Salford is known as a strong Labour constituency. They've had it. They've literally had it. And Hazel Blears has caused it.
I thought a lot about Hazel Blears, but she's gone down in my estimation.
Enough to make you consider changing your vote?
Yes. Yes.
You wouldn't?
Definitely.
Would you change your vote?
No, I wouldn't vote for her, no.
There will be a backlash, that's obviously. I mean, even here, I can't see... Well, I think she'll get in because this is a Labour ward. Hazel Blears will get in, just because they're born Labour around here. But I mean, she'll go down with a reduced majority, though. There's no two ways about it.
Crime on the railways is falling here in the northwest faster than across the country as a whole. Nationally, it's down for the 5th year in a row. It's despite an increase in the amount of railway property being stolen and also a rise in the number of cases of public disorder and drug offences. In the 12 months to March, figures just out show robberies and violent crime are down, as are cases of passengers' items being stolen.
In the northwest, we had an extremely good detection rate in excess of 40%, and I think if you're detecting offences and bringing offenders to justice, then this clearly has an effect on them and on any other would-be offenders. I think there's the work of the neighbourhood policing teams. We now have 3 teams within the northwest who have been actively engaging with partners and targeting low-level offences, trying to put higher visibility out there on the rail network, and I think that's had an impact. And I think thirdly is proactive initiatives like initiatives with our drugs dogs and with metal arches that send out a signal that really we do not tolerate crime on the rail network.
Health experts have been out here in Greater Manchester trying to raise awareness of hepatitis C. It's estimated as many as 20,000 people across the 10 boroughs carry the virus, which can have serious consequences.
We've done some work about hepatitis C, looking at how many people have got it in Greater Manchester, and we reckon about 20,000 people have got it in Greater Manchester. That means there's more people with hepatitis C in Greater Manchester than there are in some other parts of England and Wales. Hepatitis C is a serious condition because it can be left untreated for many years, because people either don't have symptoms or they have very non-specific symptoms such as fatigue or aches and pains. Only a small percentage have been tested. So if you think you've been at risk, get tested.
There have been long queues at Marks & Spencer's stores. The chain's been celebrating its 125th birthday by opening up a penny bazaar. Items including jewellery sets, scarves, purses and cufflinks have been on sale at the bargain price, with most flying off the shelves very quickly. It comes in the same week Boss has reported a 40% drop in full-year profits. Researchers reckon 3/4 of British children don't know how to boil an egg. Almost half never or rarely help their parents make the main evening meal, even though 1/3 of parents say they do want them to take part. The report says it's stopping youngsters picking up valuable kitchen skills. Rochdale is fighting back against the out-of-town shopping centres. Town centre bosses have been looking for ways to get people back there and have hit on the idea of free parking in an afternoon. And so far, the idea is going down well.
Places like the Trafford Centre, Manchester Town Centre, they're taking such a big percentage of the business away from smaller towns, so we've got to be more proactive and help the residents of the borough.
I think that's a really, really good idea. I think that we'll all be saving a lot of money, because I think it's saving, how much is it? 70p for an hour, so yeah, I'll be saving 70p.
I live on the actually top of the park over there. Okay. And people who work here park the cars in front of my house because the poor people can't find any place to park unless the government provides transportation for these people. We're going to have this problem.
Next, an act that was last seen being jeered through their audition for Britain's Got Talent last weekend say it's not going to put them off. Ian Lloyd and Helena Leonard, who are from Greater Manchester, took to the stage with their unique mix of opera singing and flower arranging. I've been along to meet them.
I had been sort of demonstrating flowers on my own to audiences around the country. I thought, well, I'd contact my friend Helena just to see if she would be willing to be with me on stage and just add a different dimension to the demonstration.
Music and flowers are at all occasions in one's life when you think about celebrations, weddings, christenings, even at sad times, funerals.
Ian's not just any old florist. He's previously been voted in the top 10 in the country, and his work's featured nationally in magazines and on television. Helena is a highly acclaimed soprano and has performed professionally in many shows, but their unique act didn't go down quite so well with Simon Cowell.
It was definitely the hardest 2 minutes of my life. to walk on there, I thought people would appreciate the flowers and the opera together. Normally when we go out on the road, we normally have very appreciative audiences.
It was awful. And halfway through I thought, well, Ian's still doing his flowers, I've got to keep going. And I wanted to burst into tears, I wanted to run off stage, but the show must go on.
It's like somebody saying, well, I'm going to dance and I'll eat fish and chips.
That analogy was wrong because you've got two art forms there. I appreciate that, you know, he obviously didn't like it. I think he was just being perhaps very narrow that day, and maybe he'd been there a long time and maybe the audience had got to him, and he was feeling a bit grumpy that day.
He didn't say he didn't like the flowers, and importantly he didn't say that he didn't like Helena's voice. He just didn't get the act together. But I looked at Amanda loved it, and so did Piers.
We'll get to see this weekend if Floral High Notes can make it through to the live stage of Britain's Got Talent. But whatever happens, Ian and Helena say they will carry on performing.
I'd love us to be able to sort of broaden our appeal. So it's not just the flower lovers of this world, it's the general public, either shows on our own or even maybe sort of going to America or cruise ships, anything like that as well.
We're hoping that we can now take our show to the next level, and instead of just performing it to flower clubs, we can then take it to hire a theatre and take it to the general public. Yeah, watch this space.
Let's take a look at the weather now, and there's been some rain around already, and that will continue into the afternoon. Looking wettest in the north and west of the region. Some sunshine will poke through in between the showers, but it will be slightly drier in the south and further towards the Pennines, but cloudy pretty much everywhere with light winds. Top temperatures around 14 or 15 degrees. If we move on to tomorrow, again sunshine and showers, and that rain will still be around in places. Heavy at times as well, but mainly cloudy with highs of 15 degrees. Rain returning again on Thursday, but looking drier for Friday and Saturday before another wet day on Sunday. This is Channel M, our top stories. Pressure is growing on Hazel Blears after Gordon Brown described her actions in the expenses row as totally unacceptable. The Prime Minister's criticised the way she avoided paying £13,000 in tax following the sale of her house. Police are looking for whoever raped a teenager in Stockport. The 17-year-old was found semi-conscious on Saturday night after being seen leaving a bar where she'd been with friends. And a pensioner from Stockport has told Channel M News how he can't afford to pay for his wife's funeral, so he's been forced to leave her body in the hospital morgue. Harry Clark says he doesn't have the money to pay for the service. Those are today's headlines, and that was the Lunchtime News. Much more on all those stories with Andy Crane in the early evening news from 5 o'clock tonight. But from me and the Lunchtime team, have a good afternoon. Bye-bye for now.